Are we going to do Gad Saad or Hotep? Which one will be shorter?
Gad Saad.
1816 Gad Saad.
Okay.
And
I'm going to start. I'll start. Let me jump this off if you don't mind. His whole I had to pay taxes on my book thing might have been one of the most ridiculous hot takes I've ever heard in 1,800 episodes of Joe Rogan. And we've heard some wild takes.
We heard people say that AIDS didn't exist. We
Dude,
heard that
I've heard everything, and this one was truly like my jaw was on the floor. Like, listen, I understand people that are like pissed about high taxes. Simon and I were talking about it. For him to be in that tax bracket, he made the highest echelon of money.
Yeah.
But and that's
his half is still a big half.
And I said,
I'm not okay. I get that.
I said to Matt, that doesn't even bother me. I get it. People make money. They don't want to pay taxes.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Yeah.
Fine.
I understand your
You
stance.
get an accountant who's going to find the loopholes for you. That's what rich people do. He's a rich person. The idea that your ideas aren't included in the same tax bracket as somebody who's flipping burgers, like, dude, this guy's living on a totally different planet, like the Gad Saad universe, you know?
I think it's the fact that it's the thing.
But that's everyone, dude. Like, do you know what I mean? Everything comes from ideas.
Yeah.
Like, not just
And
authors.
depending where you live, you have to pay more for the money you make for your ideas.
No, he has to pay more because he's in a higher tax bracket.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have to pay that much if he was a struggling artist.
But if you lived in Texas, you'd have to pay way less.
Okay,
hold on, but he's
that's
rich
not
enough to
what we're.
move,
He
too.
can go wherever the
First
fuck
of all,
he wants,
he
and he lives in
Quebec. And if you
which
wanna
is
talk
the
about-
most dictatorial. Like the rest of Canada is not like that. I agree with him. That is a crazy fucking place.
The provincial and the federal tax is just it's hard, right? If you make a lot of money at something, but you think just in general in life, it wasn't just the sales of that book.
No,
that
he's
put him in
talking
that
about
tax
his
bracket.
intellectual property cannot be taxed. And what I'm saying is that's everybody who does something other than like drive a bus. Even then, that may be the idea of a fucking route you're going to take. I don't know.
It wasn't enough to describe Canada as a communist country.
Listen,
It's totally unreasonable.
Oh, it's insane.
Look, if you don't believe in taxes, that's a whole other thing. If you want to have that argument, I'm okay with that. But if we are paying taxes, then I'm sorry, your book gets taxed just like him who fucking has a podcast or whatever, you know?
Yeah, Kamar, this podcast is all just our ideas floating around. I still think we should pay taxes on the money we make.
I
know you don't. And that's
listen,
an
hold
argument
on.
I'm willing to have. But that's not the argument Gad Saad was saying. He was saying, you cannot tax my ideas. I'm too fucking whatever.
Gad.
Kamar.
I'm
Gad.
Gad.
I'm Gad.
Kamar, if you want to sit here and have an argument about I think government is too bloated and my tax money isn't going to the right stuff, that's
Agreed.
a totally separate argument. I'm on your side of that. I'm on his side of that. I agree with that. I'm still like, I still think you pay taxes when you write a book. It's just like, I don't understand this loophole he's created.
It should be that to any creator, like you pay taxes, but you get one thing that you decide is your
No, I
your
totally
opus,
disagree.
and that doesn't get taxed, and everything else you do does.
No.
That's interesting.
get
Then
one
you got it. Then you got to
like a
decide.
grant.
It might not be your first thing that's good. It may be your second
Yeah.
thing, but you wasted it on your first thing, and now you're
Just
fucked on the
artist
second.
exemption along the way.
You didn't mention that though. Like, what are the, like Simon said, you get a good accountant. I bet this guy got a grant.
And again, if you are a struggling artist,
Yeah.
you're not going to pay that same tax he's paying. He's paying that because he's rich.
Yeah, I know.
He made it sound a lot worse than it did.
Oh, yeah. He's a fucking
Well, he was
tenured
trying
professor.
He was trying to make Canada sound worse than it is. Look, I get it. We're
not perfect.
We're not perfect.
I'm not
going to
sit here and be like everything is
any
peachy.
means, but there are just as many problems in the United States where you have the amendments to protect whatever as there are up here without it. Like,
hold on, I'll put it to you very
just because you have free speech, you have. Sorry, go ahead.
It's very simple. If you walked up to a Canadian who's lived here for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, who previously lived under a communist regime, if you asked that person, do you feel like Canada's a communist country? I bet 1 out of 99 would say yes, if that, right?
They don't complain about taxes.
What do you mean? Taxes are
Is
not
that what you're saying?
No, complaining about taxes is a separate thing. It doesn't make Do you think taxes make you a communist country?
I think lots of Canadian artists leave Canada and become citizens somewhere else, and American artists leave America like to evade taxes.
Well, sure, that would make sense if that was your only source of income.
Yeah.
Listen, come
This
on.
guy has, anyways, it doesn't matter.
Hold on.
You're missing the point. I
He
think.
could. There's nothing stopping Gad Saad from moving to Puerto Rico or Guam or one of these fucking tax havens. There's nothing stopping him.
Puerto Rico.
Oh wait, the thing that's stopping him is his super lucrative 10-year job at Concordia. So like, this guy makes a ton of money. I
And
get
his
it.
wife probably works in Canada, and like, you know,
Listen,
and
my
then
mom-
go live somewhere else.
My mom told me her tax bill this year, it crippled me hearing
Yeah,
it. Like I was like,
cripples
that's
anyone.
a fucking insane number. But then I looked at her and I was like, that also means you made a shitload of money. And
But yeah,
like you said too, hold
and
on.
we also have paid for medicine. Like we pay more
And we're gonna
because
have
of
free dental soon.
Again, I want to say this: the government is bloated as fuck. A lot of the money
Agreed.
a lot of money from your taxes does not go to the services and stuff you'd like. I'm totally with that. I agree with all that. That
He's
doesn't.
allowed
and
to
he
complain
should-
about taxes, but he
he
made
sh-
it way worse than it is.
he should have said. And what I could have got behind is I don't like where my taxes go. I think our government is inept.
Yeah.
But like you can't not pay taxes because then what's going to happen?
But if what he says is true, the government got more than he got for what he did.
Right.
When you put in the benefits of society that we get
Yeah.
for that,
I make
it
$1
balances
billion
out.
and the government gets to take half of it. I get it. It's
Plus what?
outrageous, but at the same time, you still have $500 million.
You do, but if you don't have, I think if you have made $10,000, it would be the same tax bracket.
Of course
No,
not.
God, no.
This
Not
is what
even
we're
fucking
saying.
close.
That's what I'm saying. Like if you came up with an idea right now to make you rich and famous, well, I mean, but then you'll become rich, so you'll be in that tax bracket. Your first little thing, you're not going to pay a lot of tax on it because you're just a person.
So the point is, he was disingenuous in the way he described being taxed on his intellectual property.
I mean,
Do you know what I'm going to
well,
say
that
too?
and it seems like a weird thing to me.
It's a weird flex too. He lives in Montreal. Like, Canadian cities are clean as fuck. Montreal is a massive metropolis. It's very well kept. It's got like he's someone who could drive around his city and go, I can actually see that my tax dollars are doing something.
I
Hold
mean,
on.
Montreal's a really bad example because their
Quebec's a bad one.
infrastructure
Okay, fine. No,
is
no, but hold on,
horrible,
hold on.
and it's all built by the mob,
hold on.
and they're constantly having people crushed by bridges.
Hold on. If you go there right now, they're rebuilding all the fucking highway. Like the entire highway's been rebuilt. I get it. Their potholes are terrible. Any Canadian city with a terrible freeze thaw has our fucking streets are trash.
No, it's not the streets; it's their bridges falling apart onto cars
Okay,
and
sure.
stuff.
But that happens everywhere.
Well, no, they're especially because
yeah.
they did hire mob.
Yeah, I know.
to
I've
build
read
the
all
city.
about it. I
and-
understand.
Let's go around Canada. We won't right now, but just see if there's different tax brackets. And
There
what there
are, for
Calgary
sure.
has different.
So
yeah,
let's just move on. Like,
let's
it
move
could be
on.
better.
Good.
But even then, hold on, you brought up a good point. Joe didn't like California, where his tax money was going,
Yeah.
or how much he was paying in taxes. Guess what he did? As a rich person, he got up and left.
God says he's moving to Austin, but I don't think he is. I think he's in love with Montreal with good reason, because Montreal, especially if you have means, is a wonderful city. And walking around his cafe, I don't disagree with everything Gad says. I just don't like Gad.
no, I agree with you. I,
I
don't
don't-
disagree
I don't
with
disagree with
everything he
everything
said.
yeah.
I don't like him at all.
I don't like him at all.
at all.
He seems like a real know-it-all.
But he's not that bad, because I thought he was insufferable when he was 85 pounds overweight, and he lost weight, and he's still the same insufferable.
No, but good for you, God. At least we
Yeah,
can,
good for him.
applaud your weight loss. It
didn't
did not
you
make
didn't
you more tolerant.
He
not
didn't
make him
shed
a
any of the
bigger douche.
insufferableness.
It didn't make him any more of a douche. But one of the telltale
Didn't
moments
make him
was
any less of a douche.
when he
you
was
get me one
talking
of those?
about.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So that's what I've done to get here, is created satire and then sit back and watch it happen. And he goes, well, what do you print now? I was like, well, nothing at the moment. So he's sort of, the well hath run dry for Gad Saad. And I think his new book, which he was here to sell, is about things that you can do to have a good life.
Look, at one
There's
point,
no bad intention.
and he thought he was telling like an endearing story, but to me it came off as like, this is who Gad Saad is. When he was telling the story about the PhD student who gave him the warning, like, listen, the girl that's coming to dinner,
Yeah.
she's in feminine studies and stuff, you know. And he was like, I understood what he was saying. He was saying, be on your best behavior. It's more my night, so let's just chill. And then he's like, but I knew right away I couldn't. You know what I mean? Like, dude, you couldn't sit through one dinner for this guy without
Sounds like
poking.
a Jordan Peterson. Like, I get it. What you're saying is probably correct, but you don't need a fucking
Yeah, you don't
Good
need to
friend
have
of his.
ruin my
This is what
dinner.
I'm saying.
You don't need to ruin my dinner party.
Yeah, you ruined my birthday celebration
Yeah.
so you could make a point to this feminist. Like it does. And again, I agree with everything he's saying. I'm not saying like this
As
guy's.
an evolutionary biologist, but he's now gotten out of his lane. He shouldn't be talking about Johnny. He should be talking about new developments or research in evolutionary biology they've come across and observed that explain these things. But he's just jumped on the bandwagon.
He stated that he spots these trends 3+ years in advance.
Always, yeah.
Tell me the next ones. Where are those? Why
I
are we
have
talking
none no
about
more.
your diet? Why are we
past
talking
accomplishments.
about fucking anything but that?
I got to say, though, it was really interesting that Joe in this episode, when Gad Saad was describing that feminist at dinner, all her ideas, Joe was like, "Oh, disgusting."
It wasn't.
And then hold on. Hotep Jesus in the next episode is like, "Joe, my theory is that we're actually like we're living in water." And Joe's like, "Oh yeah, tell me more about that." I'm like, "This is the same bullshit this feminist was fucking."
No, you're making a mistake in calling her a feminist. It was a
She was a
postmodernist
feminist studies.
But the postmodernist, like
Yeah, I know that was.
feminists believe in gender and stuff like it gets. And that's
She was
where-
both,
where
I'm
the
telling
difference- She was a feminist, but she's also a postmodernist.
Yeah, I get it.
And she wouldn't, I think, take the same crazy positions she did, like saying what is East, what is West, as a feminist. But it's the
Yeah, I understand that.
Christina
Yeah,
Peter
I get it.
P talks about as well.
Whatever.
He said one of her friends. He said what they're talking about free speech and what is truth, what is absolute truth, what is the logical truth. If you're saving those feelings, and he said, well, we have someone who broke the truth, and I think he was talking about
Sam
Sam
Harris,
Harris.
yeah.
Okay, we have an agreement.
Who broke the truth?
He
Yeah, when
referred to a friend-
Sam Harris,
It was awesome.
Sam Harris was happy that Trump got thrown off Twitter.
Oh, really?
Well, because he was very unhappy about January 6th.
Well, too bad. I mean,
Too bad for who? Sam Harris?
yeah, fucking right for Sam Harris.
What do you mean? Fuck, I don't get it.
I mean, like, you're a grown man. I thought he was an advocate of free speech.
Yeah, I think that's what Gad Saad was saying.
That's
So-
the
that's
lie
Gad
he
Saad's
told
Oh,
point.
the inciting the violence was his problem, whether Trump incited violence or
It
not.
was an ethical
He's
lie.
decided
It
that.
is-
Well, no, but that is pretty much everybody's line, right? Like for free speech, you're okay with free speech unless you're inciting
Of course,
violence.
yes,
At
yes.
which
Well,
point
that is the
your
line
free
where
speech,
free speech is drawn.
Okay, so
Yes.
if that's line, just to take Diablo Avocado for a second. So Sam Harris's position was that's the line.
And that
I
he crossed
believe
it
that Trump
As
incited
the president of the United States.
and maybe he said by silence he also incited, you know what I mean, like instead of getting up and diffusing the situation, he did nothing.
Yeah.
He actually threw fuel on the fire. Not enough to, I think, to start
I think
any
it's
sort
just
of
that he
riot.
applauded censorship.
But again, is that applauding censorship? If, like, I never really looked at it that way with
Being
Trump.
stoked
I
it
just thought
happened?
they were getting rid of him because they didn't like him and that was their prerogative. But if you're just placing it on January 6th
Yeah.
and you believe that he incited violence that day, that is the reason. That's the one line.
The question is this, though, is did he incite violence using Twitter? Because if he didn't incite violence using Twitter, why would Twitter get involved?
right.
Just in case
Correct.
he does something.
well,
I'm just saying, though, because there's a big difference in my opinion. If he tweeted out, I think you should all storm the Capitol using Twitter, then I think Twitter has a pretty strong case as a publicly traded corporation to potentially ban him.
Right, but-
hold on, I wasn't done. Just real quick, not permanently. Here's where my issue is. You can't a permanent ban is we don't even like when we send people to jail for murder. There's usually like, listen, in 25 years we'll give you a parole hearing. Like to ban someone permanently, like I get it. If someone does something egregious, maybe 6 months, a year.
if you incite violence against another person, shouldn't that, like, that's a crime?
Okay, and guess what? You wouldn't go to jail for life for that.
Yeah, think about spray painting something as a crime or breaking a window as
No,
a
no,
crime.
no. I understand. But
Armed robbery is a crime.
let's just look at Trump for a second. If
Okay.
he was on there inciting violence,
Yes,
okay?
yes.
Let's say he really did go onto Twitter.
Yeah.
I don't know what he did. And he said, true patriots, let's storm the Capitol.
Yeah.
So he's incited violence for that day.
Yeah.
You figure 6 months from now, just let him back on. Like, I think they have to make a call at that point, right? Like,
But again, let me
if
ask
you're
you
a
the question.
white supremacist, okay, sorry, go ahead.
Permanent ban. You believe forever.
I don't know. I like, for anything else, I'd say no. But trying to get other people hurt, that's where you gotta draw the line, I guess, right?
No one died that day, correct? Is that the...
No, 2 people died, but not directly because of any.
not directly.
One
Because
had
it was like
a
someone had a heart attack 2 buildings over from watching? Because that doesn't really count in my opinion.
Again,
I don't know that much.
Again, it doesn't have to be the result because we know from lots of cases
I understand
attempted murder.
I
all
understand
of
it
that
doesn't
stuff.
have to be, but like, let's say 5 cops died that day, or 5, whoever fucking guards the place die that day. I think then it's a very different...
Okay, so if there's a body count, then he's banned.
Oh no, that
for
woman
life.
died. That woman got shot by the... Remember, through the door. Yeah, she got shot.
Okay,
That definitely
So
happened.
is one death enough to keep him banned for 10 years, or like I just where do you draw the line
Exactly.
at that point? You know
Exactly. Where
Okay,
do
I
you
don't.
draw the
I don't
line?
know either. I'm not saying I
No,
agree
you
or
were
disagree.
asking, and
Yeah.
now you've come around.
How about
to it.
this? Let me ask both of you this. Do you think, had those people found an AOC or a Nancy Pelosi, do you think there would have been real violence, or do you think it would have
I
just
don't
been...
think so. I don't think so.
Listen, I don't know, but I'll tell you this: when you're that one guy who was 18 FBI agents convince you that you're doing the right thing, do I think that somebody like that is capable of course, you know what I mean? So if the guys who found AOC were some weird, like, guys who were being influenced by the CIA or something, I think they could have found her and killed
The person
her.
that did die was shot by a Secret Service.
I told you that, yeah. It was through the door. Remember, they said back up, and then she went forward and they shot her.
Listen, most of the people who broke through there were probably just caught up in the fact
the mob
that
mentality,
this
sure.
happened. Some of
that's why I'm
Some
asking.
of those people were bad apples, and some of them were probably, like I said, being convinced to do something that they didn't even understand.
So again, I go back to it like this, Simon. If a court of law wouldn't find you guilty of something, is a permanent ban the answer?
Well, if he's not found guilty by a court of law, I guess you're right. Did Trump end up going and they proved that
But
he
even
was
then, let's say
innocent or whatever?
let's say a court does find him guilty, and like let's say they sentence him to... these are all... Let's say they sentence him to 6 months probation because he's a former president. Again, is a lifetime ban the answer?
I don't know, man. If you're a they take it back to the Jewish people who let the neo-Nazis have a say.
Yeah.
They were cool with that because everybody should be able to speak their mind. But I assume that if those same people were saying, go down to Fifth Avenue and kill these Jews, that they wouldn't have the same opinion. you know?
Yeah. I agree.
So I don't know. I think if you incite violence on somebody to that degree where they can prove that you are actually trying to get people hurt, I think you should probably be banned from Twitter for life. If that's their fucking rule, then...
I'm just saying, I think if we really want to make Twitter, if Twitter is actually, and I don't think it is, if Twitter is actually the town square and we're trying to make it a better place, I don't think a permanent ban ever helps. And just hear me out. I think there should be bans, because if you go back and look at the early days of Reddit, it was terrible. It was 4chan, 8chan, like...
Terrible for what? Feelings?
Well, listen, Kamar, if you actually want a town square, you don't want it to be filled with crackheads shooting up. You want it to be a place where people can go and voice their opinion, correct?
But the
Kamar
crackheads are
wants the
there.
crackheads.
But the crackheads are allowed to be there.
Yeah, okay, but my point is
Do you want them around
Do
your
you want
kids?
do you want the town square to be a full-blown crack den, or do you want it to be a park where there happens to be a crackhead in the corner?
He wants it to be New Amsterdam.
Hamsterdam.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, Hamsterdam, yeah.
But in this case, crackhead is all right because some of these crackheads online are doing quite well in society.
Okay, well, forget
They're not
crackheads.
homeless.
What about the pedos? Should they be there too?
No,
right next to the schools?
That's where we have to draw the line.
So
exactly.
there's always a line to be drawn.
But again, though, Simon, I'm just saying you can implement something where it's like, listen,
Should the pedos be banned for life?
well, how do you know someone's a pedo? Like, if you post pedophile shit, yes, you should be banned. For
So
life.
that one you
Yeah.
think that's a lifetime ban.
yeah.
But if you get somebody murdered, that shouldn't be a lifetime
That's different.
ban?
If you get, we didn't say that. You said incite violence. If you get someone murdered through Twitter, lifetime ban. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So sorry, if Trump
And a life
says
sentence,
go
probably.
storm the Capitol and a bunch of cops die, lifetime ban.
Yeah.
Of course.
Okay, so I'm just trying
Without
to
a
find the
doubt.
line here. You know?
That's why it's called justice.
But
Someone
again,
else has to
Simon,
decide it.
I think again, to Kamar's point, like I don't think Twitter is the arbiter of whether Trump incited violence.
Nope.
So again, I think if a court of law says definitively the sitting president incited violence that led to the death of police, different story.
I guess that's why a real town square
Yeah.
would have to be run by the government and not an independent.
Well, I mean,
and that's
again-
not great either, but
No.
that's the best we got, Matt, in terms of fairness.
Listen,
You're not
again,
going to get it
hear
from
me
a
out.
private entity. And anybody who thinks that Elon
No, he ain't it. We're fine.
is a fucking saving grace, you guys are like buying exactly into what they're feeding you, force feeding you like a duck to get foie gras.
Is there a saving grace?
What?
If Elon is not the saving grace, is there somewhere out there like Mr.
I don't
Beast,
think
a saving grace?
think Twitter is going to save us. Social
saving grace.
media
No,
is
I-
not
I-
going to save us. This idea that someone's going to come along and be the savior of social media, guys, get the fuck off your phone.
The right thing to happen is that Twitter was horrible and terrible and they didn't do things justly, and now they should crumble and go away and something new should emerge. We don't need fucking Elon to come. If you're so great, Elon, make your own thing. Stop buying other people's things and trying to seem like a big fucking man.
That's a good point too.
I thought it was funny. The Circle, they said Republicans or conservatives are mad at the government, and the liberals are mad that the conservatives exist.
That's pretty much
So
it.
that was his one-liner. He often said, "I don't want to toot my own horn," but he does
That's
like to
all
toot
he
his
does.
own
Yeah.
horn. That's all. That's all right. That's all right.
I thought it was, oh, sorry.
He said in his book, it was like the waitress test, and then he says, "Do you know the Bronx Tale, the car
the
door,
door
test?"
test, yeah.
And I realized at that point he said, "I stole that and I put it in a book or referred to it, like acquisitioned it." He just wrote a basic book, I think, on movies and songs and personal experience he's had. So it'd be harmless.
I thought Joe proved what a fucking great statesman he was in this episode, because he was like, Gad Saad tried to gad him into a fat shaming thing where he was like, you have this like hatred
yeah.
for fat people, and Joe's like, no, you have it all wrong. I have a hatred to see that aspect in myself. I thought that was brilliant.
People
like,
quit.
out of all the ways you could deflect, he came off smelling pretty rosy there.
And what about the BMI? Is that
Body mass index?
Yeah.
That's just another like
is that prejudice?
chiropractor.
Is that prejudice though? Your ideal weight. It has an ideal weight for everyone's build. It
Why
never gets
is
brought
that
up.
prejudice though? Like they're just saying the most 90% of the people who are this height
Yeah, should
are
the healthy
this
weight is this.
weight class. Like,
And if
that's
you're
just,
not, you're out of shape.
sure, if you want them to change
You're
the,
not your perfect self.
But it's not always out of shape. Again, I think they're using, hey, are you the average Joe?
Yeah.
If you are hitting the gym twice a day, 3 hours a day, and you're fucking ripped with muscle, you're probably going to be obese on the BMI chart. But again, you're not the average Joe and probably shouldn't be using that.
I'm going to hit my BMI, but I'm not healthy. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? I have all sorts of other things, but I just happen to be thin.
Yeah, I'm the same way. If you looked
It's
at me on the
my
BMI chart,
metabolism.
yeah. I'm gross.
But I smoke and I do this and I do that. And like, I'm not, so it's such a fallacy anyways. It's all subjective to the person. So don't worry about it.
Kamar, what's that podcast called?
Are you garbage?
My insides. Yes.
Your
yes.
insides are garbage?
what you
100%.
eat or what you think?
Just in general. Everything, all of it. Everything inside me.
You
Garbage.
fell off a jungle gym and sued the school.
Yes.
I don't know where they land on that.
I didn't
but-
sue. I was
No,
too
know,
young.
I'm
It's
just
not like
joking.
I was like, get a lawyer.
Baby
Yeah,
boss.
fuck yeah, super.
Get him.
I also found in this
You were
one,
also in a coma, so you couldn't.
Yeah.
in this
Well,
episode,
you don't think I was.
Well, asleep. I said
issue
coma in
you
air
run
quotes.
into is when the guest starts to do more of the interview. I felt God really took over.
God or Gad?
Gad,
Because God clearly took over.
he really took over. Was asking Joe questions, and Joe was getting poetic about like,
Listen, this
what kind of
episode-
person would you marry?
This
It
episode
went like
fucking
this. It went
sucked.
like this.
How all of these episodes were over 3 hours this week was mind-boggling.
Mind-boggling.
Doesn't make any sense.
Brendan Schaub only did 2.5.
I think God will move to Austin And Joe will like sort of ghost him a bit.
Yeah. Listen, dude, I can't just have you walking by my house
He'll
every
be-
day.
he'll be jogging
power
by the
walking
house.
by- yeah.
I haven't made an amazing mistake.
Yeah.
No, I think he loves Montreal and always stay there and just have to pay the hefty taxes.
Listen, if you ever hear me complaining about high taxes, I should be a happier person. Let me just say that right off the jump.
There you go. But don't get me wrong.
No,
like,
it's a humble brag.
I don't like
Yes.
I don't like taxes. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
exactly.
nobody likes paying
But it's
taxes.
a humble brag. It's a humble brag.
Again, I had 2 surgeries in 1 calendar year. Whatever I've paid in tax in the last 10 years, right there. I haven't paid for a road. I haven't paid for any homeless person
You've
to get
paid for
welfare.
all your
I
surgery.
literally, in all
how it
my
works.
tax money in the last...
There's such a markup they make on all of that shit, Matt.
it
You
doesn't matter,
probably
but
haven't.
Simon, but even then, you understand what I'm saying, right?
I
Like
do.
the
I'm being
point is...
facetious. I agree with you totally. Like that's what happens. It's why you get insurance on your car. You're probably not going to get into an accident, but
Yeah.
when you do,
I mean, like you said, I was in a coma. No, but think about it. A month in the hospital. You know
it
how
would
much that
have
would
made your
cost my
parents
fam?
broke. It would have made your
Bankrupt.
parents broke.
100%.
Yes.
I would
People in
pull
the
plug.
States, they're living on the streets.
Yeah. So that right there, like any tax
Humble
I
brag?
pay for the next
He's not humble bragging about his fucking.
Pay him a
He's
tax.
told us multiple times how he's blown his coma money.
Oh God, that's
If you
way
complain
gone.
about taxes, it's a humble brag.
Yeah, it is exactly.
Yes, it is.
I got
100%.
something on the
Yeah.
bill.
If you complain about how much you have to pay more than everybody else in
Well,
taxes,
no one gets the
it's a
specific
humble
numbers.
brag.
They just go, they're raping me.
Simon brought up the point too. Like, if this guy doesn't have a high-paid accountant, it's his fucking fault.
And he absolutely does. Come
Of
on.
course he does.
I'm pretty sure he said he was Jewish.
Let me also. Oh
I'm
yeah,
pretty
he's
sure
got to
he
know an
lives in
accountant. He's
Montreal.
got to know a few accountants, 1 or 2.
You can't walk 2 feet without hitting a lawyer
Jewish
and an
accountant, yeah.
accountant.
And we again, I want to bring it up just in
Or a
closing.
pot shop.
He is living in Quebec where they give out grants left. I don't think there's a province that gives out more grants.
They're also the Gestapo of Canada, right? Like we're in agreement there. Of
course.
Everywhere else, you can do whatever you want with weed. There, they tell you what to do. Like I'm telling you, every single thing they keep their people pinned down. Out of all the places to live, you're living in the most oppressive part of Canada.
Simon said the best thing up front earlier. He goes, "You buy a cottage in Quebec and you go there for the weekend
This
and
is
you live in
everybody
Ontario."
knows this,
Yeah.
man. Everybody knows
The hack.
this.
It's true. You go to Quebec for the weekend because it's beautiful.
But look, if you gotta live in Quebec, it's because you found something that you love there. That is just a fact.
yeah.
And that's on you. Like I get it. If I find a piece of land that I love and it happens to be in Quebec, that is coming with,
Yeah.
you know, you're not allowed to use a harmonica on Wednesday nights because that offends Quebec, and that's just how it is.
Yeah, dude, if you live outside of Canada, I suggest you Google Quebec sign laws and go down that fucking garbage rabbit hole to understand exactly what Simon and I are trying to express here. We don't have any hate for Quebecers.
No.
They're beautiful people.
I have tons of family
It's
who
your
live
government
in
that
Quebec.
fucking sucks.
But your government sucks.
Should there be like a minimum for advertising to children?
Yes.
Because it's impossible.
Yes, there should be.
What do you mean a minimum? I want to understand.
There should
better
be a
what you're-
filter.
Like you can only be so old when you see advertising.
It depends. Are we trying to push a Hot Wheels car, or are we trying to push something nefarious?
It would
'Cause, like,
have to be every product that exists.
but why? Like, do you care if they're pushing Hot Wheels?
and
a
I
bunch?
loved commercials when I was a kid for new toys. That's how you saw a new
Yeah,
toy was
RC
coming.
car.
We didn't have the luxury of going onto the internet and like, what is the newest Hot Wheel? You know, so
But that's my question, Kamar. Like, I don't find anything nefarious about a Hot Wheel ad. I don't think they're really trying to push any. They're just trying to be like every other company moving a product.
no, there are some companies though who are out there just kind of bordering the edge of what should and shouldn't
Yeah.
be, and there should be a body that watches out for that. I believe there is. I don't know what it is here. I think in the States it's like the whatever Tipper Gore was involved
FCC,
in
isn't
there.
it?
The FCC.
But they
I mean,
they
listen,
used it. Sorry to say, and you shouldn't talk about the "Don't Say Gay" bill to young children.
Well, that's where things start getting weird, right? Like when you're no longer talking about selling people toys.
Should there be
You're
like
talking
a
about
agreed
changing ideas.
incubation period for kids to not be exposed to anything? Or
I mean, that's just never going to happen,
Yeah,
right?
But that's
Like,
a weird thing, because then you're acting like you have to incubate them from the world. Gay people live in the world.
Yeah, that doesn't make yeah.
You know what I
no,
mean?
that's
Like,
more important than what shampoo to see.
but I had this conversation
That's
with you.
not just something about advertising.
You
I
know,
had this conversation with you guys last week. Like, again, what do you do? You know, if a kid comes up and is like, "Hey, that kid has 2 dads," like,
you say that's perfect. Let's
Dads,
move on.
Rock on.
well, no, but you know what I mean? Like, I don't think any of us has a problem with a teacher being like, "Oh, he just, he has 2 dads," and
Well, I think they have to say something at that point. I think the problem is if a teacher is,
There's
and I don't
extreme
know if this
examples. Yeah,
happens,
exactly.
but if they're out there trying to push their own kind of views
yeah,
that have nothing to do with what actually is going
yes.
on, Timmy's dad,
Just like an advertising.
But you brought up a good
actually
point.
is-
How many of these are there?
I don't know.
Because I
I
think
don't know.
Joe's just on libs of TikTok and then has like extrapolated that to.
I mean, that's what I did for sure.
Yeah.
I made that mistake.
Yeah.
That website gives you so many
Yeah, it's
that you're
skewed,
like,
yeah.
oh my God, this is like prevalent everywhere in the States. And it's not, I don't
But
think
don't forget,
it is.
I brought up the point that like, what are the odds that a conservative parent is sending their kid to that school anyway? It's probably 0.
Well, it's if you don't have the luxury of being able to decide where your kid goes. If you're sending your kid to public school, you go what's in your district. Like, you know this, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You
I
have to
get
have
it.
a specific reason to send
I also
your
don't
kid
think a
to
lot of these libs at TikTok teachers are at public schools, although I could be
Oh
wrong.
no, I think they're all at
Okay,
public
maybe.
schools.
Listen,
I
I
think
don't know.
private schools would never let that go because they're able to operate way more on the fly. You know?
But I feel like a lot of private schools have that specialized, like, we don't give grades out here and that sort of,
Montessori effect.
I mean,
Thank you.
Sure, for those type of private schools, but not the ones where they're trying to get you into like Ashbury's of the world. You know, I think they're
That's
I don't
different.
know.
That's-
They did
those.
talk
That's
about
private school to me. What
But
you're
we're-
talking about,
private
is
school in
like
the States
hippie
is way
school.
different.
Is
though, right?
university private school?
Yes.
Well, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, of course.
And so the teachers are teaching the teachings.
Not all of it though. There's
But
community college.
Our
stuff like that.
our universities are subsidized like crazy by the government, right?
Taxes?
Like,
Yes.
look at how much it costs in the States. Again, another
Yeah.
thing they don't
I
offer
think,
their
I
people.
think we should say by us,
Us?
we as citizens subsidize our universities.
Yes, we do.
Stop
Yeah.
giving all the credit to the government.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the government
sure,
doesn't
sure.
do shit. They take our money and they
The
keep
government
a piece.
acts like a middleman to take my money
Yeah.
and fund everyone to go to school. I'm in.
We can say this about healthcare, other amenities of being.
Yeah.
Canadian.
That's why it always blew my mind, dude. We'd be standing outside of Babylon at like 3:30 in the morning. There's no one that lives there. We're not hurting anyone. And cops would come up and be like, leave now or get arrested. And it always fucked me up in my head. I'm like, everyone here pays taxes. That pays your fucking salary. It pays for this sidewalk. Get fucked. Like, go do a real
Until
job.
something happens.
What do you mean?
2 minutes later,
if
something
if
would
a law
happen.
is broken.
Yeah, but,
Then
well, until yeah, but you
they can
can't.
tell you- I know.
You can't preemptively come up and be like,
yeah,
you
well,
might
that's
break
like
a
that.
law.
Precogs,
leave.
yes,
No,
you can.
precogs. Get the
Go
fuck
watch
outta
that
here.
movie again with
There's
Tom
some
Cruise.
suspicion.
I'm telling you, every time you needed a cop in front of Babylon, never one there. Anytime we were always just like chilling, like Joey T would be freestyling outside till 5 in the morning, and the cops would always come, leave. I just never understood that. We pay you, motherfucker.
I
Chill.
mean, you didn't at the time.
No, I
Probably.
probably
You were
didn't
just
pay
a
any
kid who
taxes
didn't
at the
pay
time,
any
yeah.
taxes.
Someone did.
Someone did.
No, at that point in my life, I was always getting money back. That was the best. Remember when you got money back?
Back
That was
in
the
the day.
best.
And tribalization, he contended that we've reached peak wokeness. He's talking to colleagues, and he says it's.
I mean, Christina Brzezinski inadvertently said the same thing. Maybe that is happening. I'm certainly not on the pulse, you know?
I've said this for a while. I think it's the pendulum swinging. It'll swing back.
But it's much like a crash. You don't know how far the swing is on either end.
Well, I imagine that now that this has happened, if Matt's right and it's swinging back, a certain amount more tolerance will be accepted, which is probably a good thing. It's the exact same
Always.
thing that happened with gay people.
Yeah.
Everybody thought that was so terrible at the start, and then eventually it's just normal now. Just like you said, 2 dads for Mikey. It's not even a question anymore. So look, if it is just swinging back and it gives a little bit more inclusivity, great.
I was
More love can't be bad, right?
I was thinking we're talking about abortions, and all the gay guys is like, I just don't care.
Doesn't affect
I
me.
don't understand. Like, You go, girl.
So did that ever even become a thing, or was it still just a rumor that it may happen?
Oh no, they're out front. That's what they were talking about in the later episode. They're like out front of Supreme Court.
Because if you
Ready
have
to, now the left is ready to storm Supreme Court.
if you have more abortions,
Yeah.
you'll have less liberals.
Yes. The conservatives should be all for abortion.
I'm just saying, like
That should be a good
things work
talking point.
out,
Oh my God.
That's actually a good point, Kamar. They should be pushing abortion because they're not getting them.
they've got to keep them going.
No, that's a strong point.
just a
That is a
point.
very strong point. That's a Doug Stanhope-esque
If
point.
it is the side that you go on,
You got to make that into a good bit.
It's there for sure, but I would
that's been
tread.
told.
I would
That's been
tread
said.
lightly.
Okay, fine.
been said
No,
before.
dude, this pendulum is swinging back, Simon. Kamar, if you don't have a good abortion joke, you're not a real comedian.
I would agree. I had one, but I had to get rid of it.
See? Hey, that's great. That is the perfect abortion joke.
Now the one
That's your joke?
no, that's
exactly.
That is the
standard.
perfect abortion
Standard.
joke.
It's everyone's abortion joke. Abortion belt. Abortion belt. That's an abortion belt joke. That's it. He made the crucial mistake, which is outside of how we indict his personality as being. He did not read his book.
Joe didn't?
Joe didn't write a book.
Gad Saad didn't read his book.
Oh, I asked, did
Oh,
Joe read Gad Saad's
I don't
book?
know. I think they just talked about it. But I was more. It came down to, did you read it? No, I didn't.
Joe didn't even ask him
No.
because they didn't talk about fucking anthropology or whatever he is at all. They just
Oh, they
talked
got
about
a little
fucking
bit in-
cancel culture.
That he said, you can't actually go back in time, but when you have the same thoughts as someone great, you can share that moment of historical, like, know thyself. That was a Greek thing.
That's like when you come up with a joke that you've already heard before a long time ago, but you don't remember, and then you can share in the glory.
And
with
I think
the
that's what you
original.
call writing a book.
I got to be
That's
honest.
what you think you call writing a book.
And just everything that comes in.
It just dawned on me too. I hope cancel culture goes away because people complaining about it is just as bad as cancel culture. Like comedians, that's all you hear about lately. I just want it all to go
It's
away.
so boring.
Yeah.
Like it's so boring.
I don't.
I love too that some of these guys are millionaires touring sold out shows and are complaining about cancel culture. It's like, guys, you're doing okay. Just don't message anyone under 25 on Instagram.
No,
You'll
but-
be okay.
Like, I mean, pretty much at any point or at this point, like, I think most rational people out there, like, could clearly see what was a smear campaign and what wasn't. You know what I mean? Or I would hope so. Maybe I'm wrong. I think we give too much credit to, like, these dummies who don't even fucking. I don't even think they're watching fucking.
Who's a dummy?
You, Kamar, you're a fucking
just-
dumb.
No,
kidding.
not you.
No,
I'm
he's
asking an example.
he's saying these people online that are saying, that are pushing these narratives.
Keyboard warriors.
Yes. Did I get that right?
Yeah,
Simon?
like none of them even watch Joe. Like these people are irrelevant. You know what
Patrick
I mean?
talked about that. He was like, knowing you and listening to the podcast and the stuff you're hearing around you, it's cognitive dissonance.
I get into conversation with people all the time. As soon as I mention what the podcast is, you get a stink
Yeah.
eye. And then if you have a conversation with them, I'm like, oh, what do you listen to the show? You can tell they just read headline articles. And I'm like, well, he said this. And you're like, what?
I can't tell you how
it's embarrassing to
often
defend.
I really have to say, like, listen, you know me. I've listened to every episode. That's not what he said. That's not what he thinks. Like,
You have to install like a Trevor Noah app, so it looks like you're listening to Trevor Noah. You're listening to Joe Rogan. Like,
It's like a book over a
School
book.
books and the pizza.
exactly. Yeah.
that's how I read Harry Potter.
yeah.
All right. Well, I give this one
we
a
gotta
1.5.
Yeah, I give it 1.5. He just brought nothing new. He's just selling a book based on A Bronx Tale, which I was almost going to do for the movie, but I'm using something else.
I give it
You're
a
going to
1.
use Pump Up the Volume, aren't you?
I think we did that.
I think we did too.
Yeah.
All right. You gave it a 1 and you gave it a 1.5. Okay. Well, that's a show. No, I'm kidding. We're going to pay a bill. And we'll be right back.